My Father's Dragon. Cartoon Saloon has returned with a brand new animated movie. That sentence alone is enough to capture my attention and be at least optimistically curious to see what this is about. But this isn't just any movie that they're giving us, this is a movie by Nora Twomey, the woman who co-helmed The Secret of Kells and the director of The Breadwinner. Two excellent animated features, may I say. This time, however, she's taking a bit of a different direction than what we're familiar with coming from Cartoon Saloon. Instead of exploring other cultures, the team adapted the classic children's book by Ruth Stiles Gannett. And by teaming up with Netflix, they added a little mainstream touch to try something a bit more Hollywood, if you will, including having Pixar writer Meg LaFauve pen the script. Yes, it is a little different, and it is hard to imagine how they could make another piece that could be around the same level as the masterpiece that is their last project, Wolfwalkers. But you know what? I'm still excited to see this. It does look cute from the small taste that I got from Netflix's marketing, so I'm still hoping that I'll at least have a good time. So now that we're joining Elmer on a trip to Wild Island, does this movie have as much hidden potential as Boris? Or will the movie sink like The Island? Let's find out. The story. Ever since the book was first published back in 1948, one of the purposes of My Father's Dragon is for kids to let their imagination escape to Wild Island, where they experience alongside Elmer all the wildlife that inhabit there and team up with a dragon during their adventure. But now with this animated adaptation, audiences can feel like the boy and get their chance to actually see Wild Island for themselves.
Wow, that must be it. Yep.
And as Elmer gazed upon this special land, he discovers that it's a bit more problematic than it seems, especially with the island sinking and that he has to rescue the dragon because he's being kept like a prisoner to continuously rise the island back up anytime it sinks again. You'd think you'd be entering into a land of wonder. Well, kind of, but it often gets really serious, and that's where the movie reveals that it has a whole bag of issues of its own. If I could pinpoint to the biggest problem here, it's that the movie has a very conflicting tone, almost to the point that it sometimes feels like it's not sure who its target audience is. On one hand, as an adaptation of a children's book, it wants to present itself as kid-friendly, taking moments for the younger viewers to have a good time and for them to connect with the characters, even making them act like children.
Wanna see why I'm called Soda? Wanna see? Wanna see? No?
I understand why they're doing this, of course, but I can also understand why some might not like it because the juvenile behavior can get annoying. But at the same time, whenever it wants to get serious, it goes deep into the somber levels. This is the kind of movie that can hit really hard, and I don't mean that in a good way. It goes hard to the point where the movie can get pretty depressing, making it debatable if the mood might be a bit much for the audience that it's originally intended for. In fact, the movie tests that theory where before Elmer even sets foot on Wild Island, you have to sit through 20 minutes of a single mother and her son see their life dilapidate before their very eyes to the point that they lose almost everything and are on the verge of homelessness.
I needed you to get out of the truck. That's all. And now, I need you to get that kid out of this apartment, because I have enough to worry about, okay?
I'm honestly fine if the film would go with either tone, but the two are so polar opposites and go extreme with their emotions that they just don't mix and causes the mood to frequently whiplash and, again, feel confusing as to who this feature is for. Sometimes it's hard to determine if it's for kids because it can get very dark and gloomy, or if it's even for adults because it can also get childishly goofy. But thankfully, once Elmer gets settled on the island and meets up with Boris, the storytelling does slightly improve. When the mission to get Boris out and find a way to truly save the island is established, The story gets some focus where it has a bit more of an understanding of what it wants to show. As the leads move around the island, there is also some world building that's sprinkled throughout to give viewers time to know the place, like why is it sinking, who are the animals that are at risk in this situation, and what is their relationship with Boris. At its best, it knows how to make the scenes engaging and have viewers interested in the island's dilemma, as well as wanting to see Elmer and Boris pull through, on top of a nice message about how it's okay to be scared and how that can actually help you achieve your goals. I'll also add that a key part to this grabbing the viewer's attention is the score by Michael and Jeff Dana. I usually wouldn't think a whole lot about the music except when it makes it an integral part of the picture, like in a musical, but even I can't look past how the soundtrack is beautifully orchestrated and actually helped me get engaged with the feature, almost making me forget about its flaws and just let me immerse in the moment. The story is very much like the island in the film. Sure, it's technically still afloat, and there are still some sights worth seeing in there, but it's often in a constant state of sinking and always needs some aid to pull it back up before it goes any lower. The animation. If you want to get an illustrated feel from your 2D animated feature, then who better to deliver that than the people at Cartoon Saloon? However, keep in mind that this is a collaboration with Netflix Animation, so this will be a little bit different than what we were accustomed to with the studio. It is worth noting that this isn't as stylistic as their previous works. Yes, there is a style going on, but the visuals don't fully go into that historic tapestry look as much as something like Wolfwalkers. Then again, it's not something that I'll be taking points off. It still looks great as it is. I'm just saying to not expect the same style coming back here. Anyways, what could possibly be the biggest player to have this capture the feeling of a children's book is the animation. Despite not sharing the same designs as The Secret of Kells or Wolfwalkers, there is still some of that Cartoon Saloon sense where it does play with simplicity and shapes. It doesn't overcomplicate the look or fill the screen with too much stuff happening at once. Almost everything from the backgrounds to the characters are built out of simple shapes like circles, squares, rectangles, and triangles, along with bold colors to have the characters pop out from their environment.
Whoa. I did it!
Yes, there is some use of lighting and shadows to not make them look entirely flat, but they don't take away from the illustrated look. Even when you look closely, there's also this painterly-like texture on everything to give the illusion that it was all crafted by hand on paper, and that it's all coming to life. And with everything accounted for, they result in the designs to be reminiscent to something like the Little Golden Books. It tells a story to children while also providing charming visuals to help them follow with the tale.
When you wake up, I'll have the answer.
This really was my lucky day. And tomorrow's gonna be even luckier.
And accompanying the designs, the character animation itself is expectedly very well done too, with movements that flow very well and stay true with the animals and the people that they represent. Not to mention that they also highlight their respective personalities like with Boris, making the most out of his capabilities and childlike wonder.
What do you think?
But what I could say is the biggest surprise of the animation is how it well integrated some action into this. Whenever Elmer and Boris are faced with a treacherous obstacle, the animation provides a good pace to give the right amount of intensity and present the danger of the situation of how things could get a whole lot worse if they fail. It's moments like this that help grab the viewer's attention real quick and suddenly become engaging in ways that are unexpected from this kind of feature.
Grab onto the lollipop!
Although not exactly the kind that I find myself awestruck with its style like the past Cartoon Saloon works, the animation is still beautifully crafted and really captured that sense of a living children's book. The characters. In order to have this adventure be great and fully engaging, the characters have to put some effort to be likable so that they are worth hanging around with throughout the journey. I'll say that the characters here are definitely not the worst, but I'd still rather want to hang out with others. My feelings towards them are a little complicated because there's such a mixed bag of things that I enjoy and dislike about them. On one hand, they're not that well written with their personalities where they can either overstay their welcome or cause the film to make the tone unpleasant. But then again, I can hear that the voices really put their heart into it to make their respective roles as emotional as possible. I'll even give credit to Jacob Tremblay as Elmer and Gaten Matarazzo as Boris, who made the most out of the materials that they were given.
That's what I really feel in the pit of my stomach.
I bet you'd be great after Dragon Boris.
As we get into the cast, we might as well start with Elmer, the boy who finds himself on Wild Island. On the surface, he cares a lot about the life he used to have with the shop, helping out his mother in any way he can, and knowing every customer's wants and needs. Even if that life is long gone, he still has that glimmer of hope that it could come back. But once that chance comes and he makes it to the island, it's almost like that childlike innocence is gone and he kind of becomes a jerk. With Boris, he's more cynical, and his mission to restore the shop now feels selfish, using that as a motive of putting his own needs above Boris's. I mean, the reason why he wants to rescue the dragon is so that he can become a roadside attraction to get the money to open up a new shop.
We can go now! I can take you back to Nevergreen!
Yeah.
Even with Tremblay's solid performance, it's hard to look past his unnecessary attitude that's just souring the mood, and can sometimes cause more issues in his situation. I mean, should I really sympathize with him when he's the one who put himself in that mess? Then you got Boris, the young dragon who's forced to keep up the island from sinking. But now that he's free thanks to Elmer, he wants to become a greater dragon and prove that he's more than just a scared little reptile. I get that he's supposed to be like a little kid, but the film might have played that up a bit too much. He's like a hyperactive child that can never calm down and is always in need of attention with no concept of personal space. I don't really hate him, and I do like the element of him thriving to become an after-dragon so that he could show to his family that he has grown. But like any crazy kid, there are times when you want to put him in a corner and tell him to be quiet.
Wait, I'm usually a lot sweatier than this.
Okay, stop. Did you just...
That was my armpit.
As for the other animals in Wild Island, they don't necessarily contribute a whole lot to the picture outside of their one trait. Rather it be acting like children, or they're obviously geared towards children. I'll admit that they're not too bad with their little moments. At the very least, they help enhance the world building to help get people familiar with Wild Island, as they may have different personalities, but they're all stuck in the same sinking situation.
I captured Seiwa's dragon for him!
Well, we captured him.
But then you have the apes and monkeys, including the leader Seiwa and his second-in-command Quan. Among all the characters here, they're the most interesting as they present themselves as complex antagonists. They're the ones who are making Boris lift the island, but as they hunt for Elmer to get the dragon back, they later reveal that the motives amongst each other are different. Seiwa wants to save the animals, while Quan wants to save the island, which may sound like the same thing, but they are shown to actually be two different goals.
Come on, let's go to the summit!
We have to get her out first.
We can sink it any second, we don't have time!
Quan!
I'm not saying that this is a bad cast. There can be a few that some will enjoy, and the voice acting is one of the film's greatest strengths. But I wouldn't say that these are great characters either, as they fall into the category of could have been better. I've honestly seen better dragons, but this one isn't so bad. My Father's Dragon is a charming animated feature that can definitely delight kids, but may not be a big hit with everyone who is older. I can confidently say that this is not Cartoon Saloon or Netflix's best work, as it has some problems with the writing that causes it to have a conflicting tone that's either too childishly goofy or too depressingly dark, and some of the characters aren't the most pleasant to hang around with. But it still managed to pull through thanks to its immersive world building, beautiful 2D animation, great voice acting, a wonderful soundtrack, and a tender message about how it's okay to be scared. I highly recommend that you don't put your expectations high on this one, despite the studio behind this, but it is still a pleasant watch if you're in the mood of something in the realms of childlike wonder. And again, I think kids will get the most enjoyment out of this one, so put it on for them and they will have a great time. And if you want to have the most enjoyment in general, then subscribe to my channel and you'll have more reviews and videos like this that can deliver that sense of wonder you're looking for. That was quite a trip to Wild Island, and while I cannot say that I love it, I can at least say that I had a good time and that, well, I experienced it.
I lied to you, Elmer. That fart didn't come from my armpit.
Yeah, I don't